Recently, SpaceX has dominated the spotlight with a series of spectacularly successful missions: Starship Flight 5, the Europa Clipper, and previously Polaris Dawn. These dazzling achievements have made many forget about what could be considered the worst space program at the moment, Starliner. It's been quite a while since Starliner took 2 NASA astronauts to the ISS. They are now facing extremely serious issues, while Boeing is handling the crisis in the worst possible way you can imagine. Let's uncover everything in today's episode. It's been nearly 5 months since astronauts Butch, Wilmore, and Suni launched to the ISS on Boeing's Starliner CFT-1 mission, but it seems many have forgotten about them. Originally, this was supposed to be a short 8-day test flight, a straightforward mission to assess Starliner's capabilities. Yet, things haven't gone as planned. Now Butch and Suni are facing a tough reality. They'll need to stay on the ISS longer than a standard 6-month mission. According to the latest schedule, they won't return to Earth until at least February 2025 with the Crew 9 team, meaning they'll be on the ISS for at least 8 months. This is unprecedented for a NASA test flight mission, and this is a big deal. Even though Butch and Suni are still actively contributing to research and maintenance tasks on the ISS, and everything appears routine, the impact of extended time in space on their health can't be underestimated. For a sense of the challenge, just look at the Crew 8 team. They're in a similar situation. Their 6-month mission stretched an extra 2 months due to the Starliner CFT-1 delays and extreme weather conditions, Hurricane Milton, strong winds, and high seas. As a result, they too are staying on the ISS for around 8 months, just slightly shorter than what Butch and Suni are now facing. Here's the thing. After the Crew 8 team returned to Earth, NASA took extra precautions by sending them for additional medical evaluations, out of an abundance of caution. Notably, NASA, usually very private about astronaut health issues, has stayed silent on the specific reasons behind this decision, or the crew's exact health status. This silence only heightens concerns about the potential health impacts of prolonged time in space. Still, we have some solid ground to speculate on. According to Dr. Jennifer Fogarty, chief scientist at Baylor College of Medicine's Translational Research Institute for Space Health, the biggest changes in bone and muscle loss occur within the first few months of a mission, after which the rate stabilizes. Essentially, astronauts' bodies adapt over time, but the effects continue throughout their time in space and do not disappear. On top of that, the impact of weightlessness on the circulatory system is serious. In microgravity, blood and cerebrospinal fluid shift upward, pooling in the head and eyes. Scientists believe this fluid redistribution contributes to concerning changes in the eye and brain structures of astronauts. Dr. Fogarty, who is also a former chief scientist for NASA's Human Research Program, emphasizes the unknown risks, particularly on longer missions. This is an area where we need closer monitoring for astronauts on extended missions, because we truly don't know what could happen. What's most concerning here is the stark difference in preparation. While the Crew 8 team underwent around 2 years of intense training for a long-term mission, Butch and Suni were only prepped for a short 8-day test flight. This gap in preparation could lead to unforeseen medical consequences. Butch and Suni are incredibly brave, true space enthusiasts, so at least psychologically, they might be able to handle the extended stay with a bit more resilience. Just a thought I want to ask you. If it were you, would you easily accept extending an 8-day mission to at least 8 months in space without any prior notice or preparation? Comment below. When Butch Wilmore and Suni mark 5 months aboard the ISS, Boeing and NASA appear to be locked in a frustrating deadlock on the ground. Comments from Richard Jones, deputy manager of NASA's Commercial Crew Program at Johnson Space Center in Houston, on October 25th, revealed a worrying lack of direction. "We're just starting that, just trying to understand how to correct and rectify the issues that are on the table," Jones stated. "The schedules associated with how long and what will be required in that area are in front of us, and we'll be working hard on that to know." These vague, non-committal statements make it clear that Boeing and NASA have made little to no significant progress. No one knows what exactly they're doing or just how hard they're working to turn this situation around. But here's the kicker. While Boeing hasn't yet resolved the Starliner debacle or brought the Starliner CFT-1 astronauts back to Earth, they're actually considering selling off their space division. It's a move that shows a glaring disregard for astronaut safety and the future of the manned spaceflight program. According to a report filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission on October 23rd, Boeing took a $250 million loss in the third quarter, primarily due to scheduled delays and increased testing and certification costs for Starliner. In the previous quarter, the program had already generated a $125 million loss. Starliner falls under Boeing's Defense, Space, and Security Division, which reported a massive $3.1 billion loss in the first 9 months of 2024. The situation became so dire that Ted Colbert, head of the division, was removed from his position in September. But the real twist is that it's still uncertain just how much of Boeing's space business will actually be sold, if it's sold at all. Boeing intends to keep its lead role in the Space Launch System (SLS) project for NASA's Artemis program, the ambitious effort to send humans back to the moon. SLS successfully launched the uncrewed Artemis 1 mission into lunar orbit in 2022, and it's set to carry astronauts around the moon in 2025 with Artemis 2. This move makes one thing clear. Boeing wants to offload Starliner's problems while keeping hold of the most lucrative part of the business. SLS operates under a cost-plus contract, meaning Boeing is guaranteed reimbursement for all expenses, plus a fixed profit. This setup is a cash cow, allowing Boeing to rake in large sums with minimal financial risk. In stark contrast, Starliner is a fixed-price contract, where Boeing must bear any additional costs and risks. With ongoing technical setbacks and continual losses, selling off the Starliner program would allow Boeing to cut its losses and escape a growing financial burden. Selling the fixed-price program while keeping the cost-plus-one, well, it's very clever, isn't it? But the real question is, who would buy a program as troubled and financially risky as Starliner? In the current landscape, Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin appears to be the only player both capable and motivated enough to take on this gamble. With Bezos's vast resources, Blue Origin might be willing to take on the risk. They're already working on the Commercial Orbital Reef Space Station project in partnership with Boeing and Sierra Space. Owning Starliner, despite all its issues, could still save Blue Origin considerable time compared to developing a crew vehicle entirely from scratch. However, Boeing's actions here raise serious questions about business ethics and their sense of responsibility. With astronauts Butch and Suni still stuck on the ISS, Boeing's attempt to pass off Starliner to another company suggests they're prioritizing financial gain over fully resolving technical problems and meeting their commitments. Back in 2014, when NASA awarded Boeing a staggering $4.2 billion contract to develop the Starliner spacecraft, no one could have anticipated this grim outcome. Boeing, once the aerospace giant, has since poured over $2 billion of its own funds into covering unexpected expenses, from scheduled delays to extra testing and ongoing technical fixes. Now, a decade of investment and effort later, Boeing is considering abandoning the Starliner program altogether, a program once expected to elevate Boeing's stature and generate solid returns, yet it's only carried crew once so far. It's almost ironic when you recall that, at the start of the Commercial Crew Program, CCP, Starliner was hailed by NASA and experts alike as the frontrunner for transporting American astronauts. SpaceX's Dragon, on the other hand, was only seen as a backup option, with a much more modest $2.6 billion contract. But history has flipped the script. Today, NASA relies entirely on SpaceX to maintain an American presence on the ISS. The demand for Dragon is so high that SpaceX isn't just extending the lifespan of its existing fleet, but is even building new capsules to keep up with the packed launch schedule. Meanwhile, NASA is scrambling to keep the Starliner program, now a backup option, from collapsing entirely. For 4 solid years, Dragon has been launching crew to the ISS, standing as a flagship product of SpaceX, and to this day, holding a unique position as the go-to space taxi, keeping America's presence on the ISS alive. Dragon has earned high praise from astronauts across the board, including billionaire Isaac Jaredman, the private astronaut who performed a historic spacewalk during the Polaris Dawn mission. When it comes down to it, SpaceX really has no competition.